Greetings, YouTube. You have warped your way back into the WGS Arcade. We're back with more Boob Tenshi 2, and on the last episode, Mizuki and Bunny kidnapped an Egyptian princess from her time period, and apparently we still don't know why. And now that they're back, we saw that they can put boob physics into the game, if you know what I mean. And apparently now, remember the side effects when they come back from the time window from time traveling? They're horny as hell. So Rose has us by the shirt and slammed him into the wall, and I can only anticipate what we're going to see next. What the? No, Rose, stop it! Blast it all! I had just enough time to see my grandfather darting over towards one of the walls before Rose smashed her lips onto mine. Tenshi. Rose continued to push me against the wall, moaning as she continued her advances. I put my hands on her waist and pushed her back slightly. But Rose responded by grabbing both my wrists and twisting my arms back. I yelped as the normally refined English woman crushed her breast against me and kissing me feverishly as her giant boobs pinned me to the wall. Hey, cut it out! Tessa came at Rose from behind, grabbed the knight under her arms, and hauled her off of me. Hey! Yelping in surprise, Rose began thrashing wildly about in her grasp. At the same time, I noticed Tensei had grabbed Kyo by the wrist, holding onto her just long enough to bop her on the head with some kind of electrical wand. The wand hummed and surrounded Kyo's head with a halo of lightning blue. Let me go, you. Kenji. Kenji. What's the matter with you? Hey, what up? I looked away from Kyo and watched Tessa struggling to restrain Rose. But as I tried to recover my wits and figure out what exactly I should do, Kyo broke free of Tensei. She gleefully charged at me, wrapped her arms around my body, looking at me in the face with her glazed puppy dog eyes and a grin of desire. Kenji, wanna play? As I was trying to think of some way to get out of this predicament, Kyo started dragging me towards the door, giggling like a drunken maniac. Kyo, stop it! Listen, Rose, Kyo, you have to get control of yourselves. You have to. Yeah. A squawk of dismay escaped from the time window room before the door closed behind me and Kyo. She dragged me along the hallways of the lab, and I alternated between trying to pry my hand off of my wrist and trying to get some kind of handhold on something to stop her forward progress. But I was off balance and couldn't find anything to dig my heels into. I couldn't reach any of the door frames, and despite my best efforts, Kyo's arm felt as immovable as solid steel. But how's this possible? Kyo, she's so tiny. How can she be strong enough to do stuff like this? Before I could give in any further thought, Kyo stopped in front of the door and opened it with an eager laugh. She dragged me in, and I hurriedly realized that this had to be Kyo's room. But as I realized the implication of this, Kyo began gleefully sucking in a deep breath. As I wondered what she could be doing, Kyo folded her arms behind her head and inhaled as much as she possibly could. They got bigger. Proudly thrusting her colossal bust line outwards. I gulped as I realized where this was going. I could hear her garment creaking desperately in protest as it was stretched more and more past its limits until finally her maid lingerie snapped off her cambering curves and flew across the room. God to the damn. He feels so nice. Kyo's massively swollen bust line was almost completely exposed, only barely constrained by a very meager bra which had somehow clung on for dear life. I only had a few seconds to gulp before Kyo wrapped her arms around me. Kenji, I really did miss you. Something was happening. Kyo sounded more relaxed. Her voice was still distorted, but she did sound calmer, more relaxed. As I wondered if the worst of the time window side effects were already wearing off, Kyo pushed herself into me even more. Unfortunately, I had backed into her bed right then and was sent crashing down onto her mattress. Even though I hadn't knocked my head, I was still stunned enough for Kyo to take advantage and clamber on top of me. Kyo, don't think this is a good idea. I mean, you're not yourself and... Kenji! I held out my hands to try to restrain her or to push her away or something, but Kyo grabbed me by the wrist and forced my hands on the voluptuous expanse of her breasts. They're putting in sound effects into this one too. I like it. I felt myself freeze up as my hands sank into the tender softness of our titanic twins and was completely unprepared for the way she gasped in delight. Ah, I really missed you. Kyo's eyelids were fluttering as she was looking increasingly dazed as she straddled me. I wondered if this was some new wrinkle in the side effects of time travel as I felt my body tensing with eagerness. But before anything else could happen, someone shoved Kyo off to the side. What the? Ah, damn. As Kyo and I looked around in surprise, I started a bit... That probably should be startled instead of started. A bit as Rose jumped onto the bed as well. The practically drunken knight gleefully ripped off her top, revealing her own enormous boobs in all their enlarged glory. Gulping loudly as I noticed the way her own bra was being strained to its limit, I was about to try and talk Rose down when she slammed her lips onto mine. I was allowed to breathe again when Rose pulled back enough to look me in the eyes before catching my wrist and guiding them into the chasm that lay between her breasts. I watched slightly alarmed as my hands disappeared into the immense softness of her cleavage. Oh, Kenji, so glad you're back. Just then I felt something fall down on me. Looking down, I realized it was Kyo who had fallen, with her eyes closed and her mind-boggling bust squished firmly against me. The sensation was magnified as she gently breathed in and out like she had fallen asleep. A few seconds later, Rose wobbled out, her eyes rolling up as she fell on me as well. A smile was still on her lips as her own tremendous bosom pushed down heavily on my body, apparently asleep, just like Kyo. Several seconds passed as I continued to lay there wondering what in blazes just happened, right until I heard an exasperated sigh. Okay, still waiting on the naughty tentacles. I sat up enough to see Tessa standing at the end of the bed. Right next to her was Grandpa, who was still holding that strange wand of his. Grandpa, what just happened? Are Rose and Kyo, are they... They're both fine, Kenji. They're just unconscious thanks to this stun baton. After we learned what time travel does to women, I decided to come up with something that could render Rose and Kyo unconscious, just in case either of them came back and something like this had happened. I've never actually had to use it before now, but... Kenji, they didn't do anything, did they? No. Kyo just started calming down and after we got here, and Rose... Well, that's a relief. Fantastic. You not only invented the world's first time machine, but it also doubles as a sex-crazed bimbo maker. As we already know, the side effects of time travel become progressively stronger the farther back in time you go. So while a short trip a few centuries in the past would certainly lower their inhibitions, going back thousands of years clearly did far worse than that. I had to admit that this made sense, as I again glanced at the girls lying on top of me. One question came to mind. So, what's next? First, we have to get the girls to the experimental lab. It doubles as a medical bay where we can better diagnose and monitor their conditions. I had no idea just how severely their exposure will have affected them. Now, let's get Rose and Kyo to the lab for treatment. And once that's done, Kenji? Yeah? Please go to the time window room and let Michelle know what happened. As soon as Tessa and I are done, we'll join you. We need to discuss what happened today immediately. Well, this day's off to a great start. With that, Grandpa and Tessa made their way out of the bedroom, carrying the sedated Rose and Kyo after hefting them off of me. Trying not to think about what would have happened if the stun baton hadn't worked. They would have raped you. I eased up off of Kyo's bed and made my way to the time window room. When I arrived, the door slid open and revealed Michelle looking at me with a worried expression. What happened, Kenji? Are you alright? What about Rose and Kyo? I'm okay, I guess, and well, Grandpa and he... I understand. I mean, when you first arrived and were hanging around, that's why I always made sure you'd be out of here when they came back. And I'm sorry, I just let them back before getting you out of here first. That was my fault, and I still can't believe that they didn't remember me. I nodded slightly to this and sighed. Anyway, Tensei and Tess they're getting them to the experimental lab to check on them and stuff. He said that we needed to talk about what happened. Yeah, I know. The rest was silence as we waited and wondered about what was happening to our friends and to the future girls and all the rest of it. I paced about and Michelle fidgeted within the time window. Both of us a bundle of nerves until at last Tensei and Tessa arrived. Gramps, are Rose and Kyo, are they? They're sedated and resting right now. So how bad is it? Will they be okay? Eventually, their neurotransmitter levels are off the charts, and they're overloaded with estrogen, adrenaline, and more. But from what I can tell, they should recover within a day's time. Already their vitals are showing signs of stabilizing. Hopefully, rest and relaxation are all they need to fully recover. I just wish I could consult Kyo on this, and I will be looking to find a new medical specialist to help deal with situations like this in the future. But for now, we have more immediate concerns to address. Namely, what the bimbos from the future are up to, and just how badly they already messed up the time stream by yanking Princess What's-Her-Name out of ancient Egypt. Mizuki called her Princess Neferuri, and you don't have to worry, and... Oh wait, she can't hear me. Kenji, could you... Right, sure, you can just tell me what to say, and... Michelle nodded her appreciation before going on to explain what she needed me to say. Okay, so according to Michelle, she thinks the distortion that anchors us in the past when we go back in time also acts like a quantum placeholder? Like time's guarantee that we will return from our travels and do what it needs for us to do. There you go again, Gramps, acting like time is some kind of living being, like it controls what we do and not the other way around. There will be time to discuss what time is or isn't later. For now, we have to address our current situation. Obviously, the timeline has changed more drastically than we had first imagined. The fact that Bunny and Mizuki didn't remember Michelle is proof of that. I know, but I just don't understand why. Neither do I. However, that's not the change in time that I was thinking about. Oh, what do you mean? I think that your merging with the time window is the reason why the Krontech girls don't remember you. As a result, I think that they found the time window in the future and it was still operational. Or at least not so badly damaged that they needed any help to repair it. Sorry, Gramps, but that doesn't make any sense. I mean, clearly the time window must have been destroyed over the centuries. I don't think that's the case, Michelle. I think the reason that Mizuki and Bunny originally found the time window to be destroyed is because I was the one who destroyed it. My grandfather's words left stunned silence in their wake. Wait, what? What do you mean, Tensei? The truth is, once the time window was fully operational and we started exploring time and recording information, I'd already vowed that unless I could find a successor to take care of this technology and use it responsibly, I would destroy it completely. Make certain that it could never be rebuilt. In fact, after the appearance of Bunny and Mizuki, I had already made up my mind to do just that once we had identified where they were and put an end to their activities. Wait, but Gramps, that's insane! You were seriously going to destroy the time window? It's your greatest invention. The greatest invention in all of human history, with the potential to do so much good. And you were just going to... Yes, Michelle, I was. Because no matter how good and wonderful a machine or some other discovery may appear to be, it only becomes good or evil depending upon how it's used. If the time window could not be used responsibly, then all it could ever be was a force of destruction, and in that case it would have to be destroyed. We tiny, weak, little human beings in the world we live in, we are tampering with the world we have only barely begun to understand, and we do so at our own peril. I knew from the very moment that we sent Rose and Kyo on their first successful trip into the past that no matter what happened, I had to make sure that the time window never fell into the wrong hands, no matter what that entailed. So that's why you thought that the distress beacon from Bunny and Mizuki was a trick by some hackers in our time. You were already planning on destroying the time window and making sure that no one could use a descendant distress beacon in the first place. But that changed, Michelle. You changed that. What happened to you changed all of my plans. Already I and the other girls have been working up modifications in this lab that would allow you greater amounts of control and ability. Mechanical arms, robotic drones, security cameras, and more. And who knows, perhaps myself or others yet to come will make even more adjustments to this place. New equipment that will allow you to maintain the lab unassisted, keeping it from falling into a state of disrepair that Mizuki and Bunny originally found it in? Wait, that's not possible. I couldn't maintain the time window on the rest of this place for centuries. We still don't know the full consequences of your merging with the time window, or Michelle, or how long you will live, now that your physical form exists inside of that pocket dimension. Perhaps long enough to assist Mizuki and Bunny when they come here in the future. But, Grandpa, Bunny didn't recognize Michelle's name. Doesn't that mean? It was to stop Michelle from taking a different name over the centuries. Don't forget, we don't know how her merging with the time window will affect her, especially over such a long period of time. I had to admit, I didn't think of that one. Listen, maybe we should try to approach Bunny and Mizuki again. You know, contact them or talk to them when they show up again. I mean, they're not evil, remember? They're just trying to save their world, so... No, Kenji, they're not trying to save their world. They're trying to prevent their world from existing in the first place, and in the process potentially create even more time paradoxes. And we've already seen the results of that. Listen, I have to go back and monitor Rose and Kyo's condition. The rest of you should get some rest. We've already had a very long day, and I doubt it'll be the last such day in the near future. With these words, Tensei turned and left the time window room, leaving a silence in his wake. Michelle, if you want, I could stick around for a bit. Maybe play a video game, or if you just want to talk about what happened, and... Thanks, but I think I'd rather be alone for a while. I've got a lot to think about right now, and I don't think I'd be very good company. Why don't you get some rest or something? Oh, okay, though I might check on you later, if that's okay. Sure, that's fine. There was a brief silence in the time window room before I turned away from Michelle and saw Tessa exhaling loudly. Honestly, the sooner I go through the time window and I'm finally able to see and hear Michelle as well, the better I'll like it. I'm really getting tired of only being in on half of these conversations. Not sure how to respond to that. I just nodded and made my way out of the time window room, aware that Tessa was a short distance behind me. Before we go any further, guys and gals, we're going to go ahead and call it an episode, and when we come back to the arcade, we're going to check on Kyo and Rose and see how they're doing. So with that being said, I am your friendly neighborhood WrestleGamer, and I will see you at the next work zone. Bye, guys!
It's almost gotten to the point where, like, they're getting crazy with all the hair colors. They've got purple hair on Sasha, they got orange on Becky.
Okay, was that not the right choice to go?